Golf has a way of slowing life down. And when life slows down, conversations often go deeper. Because if you're like me, every round's filled with plenty of bogeys, but every day is filled with so many blessings. We can learn from both of those. I'm Justin Whaley. This is Bogeys and Blessings, a place where we're going to talk about golf, life, faith, and all the moments in between that shape us. So let's tee it up today. I'm really excited about today. Today's episode is going to be a little different than most of the episodes we've seen this season. The last episode, you heard my version of that week at Bandon Dunes. But that trip was never one story. There were many stories that were unfolding at the same time. We had different winds, different seasons. All of us were just being shaped in many different ways. And today you're going to get to experience that through their eyes. Okay, guys. Been really excited about this episode. Thank you guys for being here, making time today to do it. I'm a little bit sad that we don't have Tom and Taylor and Brian Darling with us, but we'll hopefully try to figure out how to incorporate them into the episode too. So again, thanks for being here.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So Brian, I was thinking back about the Two Sons deal, and when you came back from the Maldives, and we discovered that we both had a passion for golf that I don't know that we knew prior to that. But when we started about talking guys trips and those kind of things, of having some intentionality behind golf trips. We planned the Bandon trip. We kind of, prayed about who would go and all that. But, in the rearview mirror, I knew that we were kind of approaching something with a little bit of intentionality. But as I look back now, I think the dynamics of things that were going on between all of us was just a little bit different. Like what did you see then, and what do you see now?
Yeah. As I go back and reflect on that season, and I think about how Two Sons came together in the first place, it came out of a season of really just you and I being intentional. Me coming back from overseas, I came back pretty beat up. That season of life for you were pretty beat up. And I remember the office specifically we used to hang out in, big whiteboard behind us and a lot of chairs, but just two of us in there. And we were really praying about everything, right? We were praying about business, where to go with business, where to go with our families, how to be better leaders. I mean, I remember having financial goals, personal financial goals that you had and I had that we were working on together. And then intentionality spiritually, thinking about, for my 30s, I pretty much gave up the game of golf, missed it, didn't realize how much it was my therapy until I didn't have it. It's always been a passion of yours, and so it was trying to figure out how to incorporate all of those things together. I don't know if you remember, our first trip was actually to Arizona. Yeah. Just the two of us to try and figure out, all right, what does this look like? Yep.
Actually, it's Palm Springs.
Yeah, Palm Springs, you're right. Yeah.
Well,
I remember snow cones from that trip.
It's the important thing.
Yeah, well, snow cones was code for this drink that they made there that, there's things we got right and things we got wrong, and those hit really well, on a hot summer day in Palm Springs. But no, it goes back to being intentional together, and then as we thought about Bandon and then Two Sons in general, right? Two Sons being the Sons of Thunder, James and John. The verse behind it, I don't know. It was sweet, but it really came out of a deeper season of just reflection, trying to dream up how do we get men around us that we can sharpen each other together.
Yeah. That's awesome. As I look back and even thinking about, why we're here today, I think you guys all know me really well. And the last thing I would really choose to do is to be in front of a camera. But I think as I look back, God's done many things in my life that I didn't recognize what he was doing at the time. And I definitely think looking back on that Two Sons season is definitely a huge part of why I'm sitting here today, able to have this kind of conversation for sure. For you three other guys, as you look back at that week, what did you think about going into that week, going into that trip? Anybody?
I was wondering why I got invited because I'm a terrible golfer. And it's the only place in the world that I've ever been where you can hit a 3-wood and catch it flush, and it goes 150 yards into the wind.
Or 500 if the wind's behind you.
Yeah, exactly right. But no, it was just a great time to get away and let your hair down. And then there was that spiritual component too, coming together at night, and after the cornhole shenanigans, as you called them.
Yeah.
Just really a sweet time, fellowship. We need to create those times in our lives where we just get away. You're able to relax.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's, I'm hopeful at the end of the day that, one of the things that hopefully people see in Bogeys and Blessings is that there's a much higher purpose behind why we get to play golf in general. I think a lot of us, we get out there and we take it for granted. We get a little competitive. We get a little irritated. But at the end of the day, it really is a special place that God's gifted us and blessed us with to be able to even do, period.
That even matches with the two sons idea. Who's the greatest? You have the competition there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that. Yeah. That thought in it.
Well, back to the to answer your question, how you got invited is that's literally one of the things that Brian and I talked about in the beginning is that we didn't want this to be about competition. We didn't want this to be about who we thought might like us. We didn't want it to be about who we thought might get along with each other. I mean, it's one of the, I think, the first few things that I had really done in my life to intentionally pray through and plan through, and you all ended up being on our heart to do that. It was incredibly special for sure for me.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time praying about who was supposed to be there, right? Because it's not hard to sell, hey, do you want to go to Bandon Dunes? Yes. That's like...
Let me think about that one. Yeah, hold on.
No problem. But if you think about who was there, the seasons of life in which they were there, and we had younger guys, thinking about Lee and Taylor and some older gentlemen... myself.
Quit it.
Obviously me.
An older guy.
I should have timed that. How long did it take? And
I think
all of us had a different spiritual journey too. You think about where we're at and the seasons of life we were at, and so there was a lot of intentionality even about who was there and why they were there. I mean, thinking about the father-son dynamic, how cool is that?
Yeah. I think it's really cool to look back that there was a lot of difference in the age spectrum, but there was a lot of difference in. And hopefully we'll talk about some of that, coming up. We all had things going on in our life, but we were at just different places, different winds. We walked in a lot of wind that week.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
I was going back and looking at the pictures and listening to some videos from that, and it was, all you heard was, the wind was just full. There was one I've got of you hitting a putter. You were trying to hit a putter like 100 yards in the par 3 kind of down, and the wind, your jacket was just behind. It was awesome.
Just short of a storm blowing in,
Yeah.
Yeah. We were excited. I thought we'd be going with guys that wouldn't throw their clubs and stuff,
You thought wrong. You thought wrong.
Not today, Satan.
No, I don't think that was the trip that he, it took us 10 minutes to find his driver. I think that was a different trip.
It was. It was a different one. I'm shocked that we actually found it. The weeds were tall. That I hadn't even thought about that. Maybe that'll be an episode in itself someday.
Listen, the gorse.
Yeah, the gorse.
The gorse. I remember the first day we were there, and you stepped on the gorse, and it went all the way through
my
your
shoe.
Oh, that's right. That's
right.
You remember that?
I do remember because I'm pretty sure that was the year that Nike came out with those Roche shoes, which are incredibly light, but they're not made of much material.
It's not gorse.
Yeah, for sure. As you look back to that particular season, do you remember anything specifically about like personal wind that you were carrying, things that you were facing in that season? Like I do, and that was on the very front end of me being in that lawsuit, and man, I got to tell you that I think at that point in time I was just pretty wrapped up in trying to maneuver through what that meant, and how to approach it. I think we were only a year and a half in probably at that point, so the reality I'm not sure had even really set in, but what had set in was me carrying a lot of weight. I was carrying a lot of shame and a lot of guilt around that I had made poor decisions, that I had jeopardized, my own family, the families that worked for us, and their kids. And like it was, I got to tell you, I was carrying a lot of weight. And that's one of the things that Brian and I had talked about. And I think it was part of the spurring of the two sons too, is that, we're not meant to carry weight on our own. The Lord wants to carry most of that weight, but it's also biblical and scriptural that we do it alongside, other believers too.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's definitely one I had going on.
We were facing some headwinds that were a little different than what we had experienced before from a regulatory standpoint in the wealth management business. Not to go into a lot of detail, but there was a new concept that rolled out in April that year. It was called Reg BI, Regulation Best Interest. And where before you would always call your clients and get their permission to put their money in certain places. And, everyone was clamoring for you to do that with discretion. Don't call me, just do what's best for me. But that set up for a whole different set of regulatory issues. And we were facing that, and they were rolling out regulations they hadn't even fully, thought through. And there were conference calls every week, and new compliance and new continuing education, and it was just changing the whole playing field. And that was pretty awkward for us.
Yeah, just a lot of change coming at us really, really fast.
Yeah,
for sure.
Clients having to be notified, and then they'd have questions, and the answers would change. It was tough.
Change is uncomfortable, but it's particularly uncomfortable when you have a hard time satisfying a client, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. None of us like change, man. As I look back and think about like Brian Darling and Tom, just the health experiences that they were either going through or had gone through. Tom was a year out or so from being in remission on prostate cancer, and Brian had gone through the brain aneurysm. I mean, literally looked mortality in the face. I think that was his actual first trip of anywhere he had ever gone. After that, and I think he was very apprehensive, and I can't wait to talk to him and get his feelings on some of these kinds of things too. But man, yeah, like looking back, I think I recognized those things, but I don't think the gravity of those things hit until I started thinking back through, preparing for this.
Yeah, it's almost like someone's in control.
Yeah, funny how that works.
Almost,
isn't it?
yeah.
For me, I think a lot of it was identity, really trying to figure out identity again for myself. Again, 30s, overseas, doing a lot of different stuff, and come back, and it's easy for us to listen to lies, right? The enemy tell me, oh, congratulations, now you have a skill set of how to grow a weird animal in the ocean. What are you going to do with that in the Midwest? And it's like, well, I guess I'll be jobless and homeless and not, be able to put food on the table. And it's like, so just trying to go back and to hang out on truth and listen to truth and listen to the identity of what the Lord was telling me who I was again, and so that was what that season of life, maybe not particularly Bandon, but that season was for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there was just headwind for all of us from some perspective. Maybe one of the things I didn't think about, but maybe one of the things you and I should have thought about is bringing over those sea cucumbers to fix divots a little bit faster.
That's a good.
That would have been awkward.
I think one of my biggest blessings really was Brian Darling, just the way we ministered to him on that trip. I'll never forget. I forget which hole it was. He was playing with Lee and I think Mickey. And he hit his ball, and we drove up there, or walked up there. We were walking that day, I think. Did we walk every day?
Yeah.
I think we walked. See, I'm so old, I can't remember now. But I go, Brian, he had no idea.
Oh, yeah.
Where his ball was. So I realized then, I need to really pay real close attention. And so he and I kind of bonded because I made an effort to really make sure that, I was keeping up with where his golf ball was. But his true nature came out because he was very affable, very agreeable, lovable guy. Mm-hmm. We've become very close since then. And, just getting to minister to him and watching him enjoy that trip was a huge blessing for me.
Yeah. Well, it was especially for me. I mean, he and I are literally childhood best friends. We've known each other since we were knee-high to a grasshopper. And, man, for me to watch him go through what he went through was just excruciating. But to see the joy that was on his face, to realize that, his identity wasn't in being a doctor alone.
Right.
His identity is in who God made him to be, and I think looking back, and that's why I can't wait to see his, hear his perspective on this. That what this trip meant to him, because I think I know, but I just want to hear it from his perspective too. That's awesome.
It was probably a real blessing to all of us because that's pre-COVID, right before COVID hit.
That's right.
And you got that blessing of not having to deal with all that. But I think it was a good picture too of, there's more to life than golf, and there's more to life than work. Mm-hmm. And we had that beautiful little time there when we get together at night. And I think back also to how you guys ministered to that lady on the range.
Oh, yeah.
That there was connection with, and I think that's even continued on with different
It
people
has a little
out
bit,
there.
Yeah. Interesting story.
Yeah.
You want to go there? You ready to go?
Certainly go there, because I think that we could make that an episode in itself. But I said, let's do it, man.
That's the truth.
So, Cliff Notes version of that, we have another buddy that we've played a lot of golf with that I've known for 40 years, Stuart Miller. And he went out there with a group about 10 days before we went out there. And he ran into this lady on the range. They had a facility there for warm-up and practice. And so they had coffee and treats and donuts, and she was there to facilitate anything you needed. And Stuart ran into her, and they began a conversation. She was going through a rough time. And he spent quite a few minutes, sort of digging and asking her how he could pray for her and whatnot. And so then he calls me, and because he knew we were coming out there in just a few days. And he said, I want you to be sure and come by the practice facility and meet this lady named Melanie. And so we did that, and I hung out with her, one morning and got a lot more detail about what she was going through. We played golf, then we got together that night. I don't know if you guys remember this or not. I'll try not to make something up or embellish it too much, but the way I remember it is she had a medical need, and she was trying to reunite with her 16-year-old daughter. Her husband had kind of been battling her for custody of their daughter. And so we prayed about it and said, well, why don't we put together a little fund? We'll just collect a little money. And Justin said, I'll match whatever you guys, come up with. And so without disclosing, it was pretty significant, So I skipped golf that next day. I didn't play that next day, and I went to the driving range and hung out with Melanie. And we got her card, and we put that money in her envelope, and she just cried like a baby. Mm-hmm. You can't believe what a blessing this is going to be to me, And so then David was going out there like 10 days after us, and we came back and told him all about Melanie. And I think it was a devotional book, might have been a Bible, but we bought her like a devotional book or whatever. I've got a great picture of she and D-May in the facility. Another person from Arkansas coming out there to minister to her. So she and I kept in touch. She got baptized in a friend's swimming pool. She got her medical procedure all taken care of, reunited with her daughter. Now she's a grandmother. That's been, 8 years ago? Her daughter was 16. I think she's 24 now and has a child. I think that's right. It'd be pretty close. And Melanie's doing great.
This sweet lady working at the driving range.
Yeah. Going through a tough time.
Yeah.
And I think she knew the Lord, but she maybe just was going through a tough enough time that she was struggling with how to handle it all spiritually.
She had a lot of headwinds.
She had a lot of headwinds. Yeah. So I still have her number, and I'll text her, every 6 months or so and just check in and see how she's doing. And she's doing well.
And just a great reminder that you never know the impact you can have on someone, even in a short, encounter like being at the golf course, right? And a lot of times those staff people at golf courses are not treated the best. I think thankfully at Bandon Dunes, hopefully they're well taken care of. But yeah, the impact you can have can be far-reaching as it was in that story, and it's great to be a blessing to other people. So
you can make a difference for sure.
I think that's so true, and it's not that we are the outliers on that trip, but I got to believe that most people that are on the 3-year waiting list to go play at Bandon Dunes when they get there sometimes they forget about this stuff, not out of malice or intent, but they get caught up in, man, I'm playing Bandon Dunes and I want to make sure that I'm properly warmed up. And so your focus is kind of on you and your game and those kind of things. But man, I mean, what a testament though. I mean, just how God can create situations right in front of us if we'll just slow down long enough to just be aware and sense His Spirit in those things. It's incredible. It'd be awesome maybe to have her on as a guest one day about, how that might look too.
Yeah, it'd be interesting from her perspective.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Well, you'll just have to take all the equipment and go to Bandon and play.
I tell you what, if,
That's a capital idea.
if we have to, I guess we could recreate that. I was talking to Brian earlier today. The problem with that literally is now, that place has gotten so popular that it literally is on a 3-year waiting list for reservations, and
Wow.
the reservations are now lottery. They call you with a block of dates, and you have to book right
Really?
then. Yeah.
I'm glad we got to go when we did.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I think that's looking back. There's lots of things we ought to be thankful
Is that
for.
big old ghost tree still there on that one course?
So yeah, it is. And as I was looking through pictures today, Brian and I were talking earlier today, and he was going through his trinkets of trips he's been on, and he ran across a lot of old pictures and stuff. But I actually have a picture of you guys walking down the fairway at Old McDonald, and the trees in the background. It's awesome.
Oh, I want that picture. I didn't know you had that.
I'll get it done.
I was thinking we need to go back and do a group folder, and because there's a lot of pictures I've seen that I don't have that I was looking for.
Well, to your point, I wish I would have taken a lot more. I'm a terrible picture taker when I go on trips. We probably need to designate one of us to do a better job.
I've got
doing
some
that.
I'll share with you.
We played a trick. I'm going to tell this. They can edit this out if you don't want it. But it was Old McDonald, and you remember there was a young lady caddy that day.
Yeah,
Do you remember the story?
yeah,
And I started messing with her.
yeah. I remember.
You
Telling
messing
her
with
more
somebody?
shenanigans.
Me messing with somebody, telling her, that's Justin Whaley. She goes, who? I go, you don't know who that is? And she said, no. And I said, well, never mind then, And I could see the wheels turning, and she goes over and she talks to another caddy, and she comes back over there, and who did you say? Justin Whaley. She goes, oh, that's Justin Whaley. I said, yeah, that's him in the flesh. And I said, we're just entourage, He just he brought us out here to to kind of just let his hair down and relax. He loves golf. He's a good player, and where I could see her just kind of inching closer to Justin. As the day went on, finally, I think it was the last hole. He said, "What are you doing?" And I told him, and he went over and let her off the hook. But it was hilarious. We had her going thinking that, you were some sort of celebrity movie star.
He was a singer.
Uh-huh.
He was a singer.
He's a singer, yeah.
Yeah, once again, what I didn't want to be known as.
Rock band.
Well, we had some fun.
Yeah.
We really did.
That's what it's all about. So, Mickey, you mentioned it a while ago, those nights after dinner when we would gather in the living room before the cornhole shenanigans. And that's one of the things that Brian and I had talked about prior to. And part of the intentionality that we wanted, on that trip was to not to make people uncomfortable, but to try to create a space for openness and vulnerability and, transparency, things that a lot of us guys don't experience, particularly when we're on those golf trips. So,
And it happened.
yeah, it did happen. So, like, how did you guys feel about those nights? What do you remember? Do you remember anything specific?
And for me, I'll speak as, one of the younger guys on that trip, me and Taylor, and just being able to sit around and listen. I love golf that it is such a multi-generational sport, and that trip was indicative of it, right? We had a wide age range of men on that trip, and so that's good for golf, right? Because you can always play different tees, you can set up different games, and we can all have fun, but then it was all obviously great as well for just conversations afterwards to, ask clarifying questions of something that was said on the golf course or completely get to know a guy in a different way. So it's just such a communal sport, and that trip was a great opportunity to meet new people and hear their experiences, share common experiences, and also in different experiences.
Well, the gospel travels the road of relationships. And so you spend all day, playing golf together. Then it opens avenues for conversation, for being honest, you see the best and worst of people on the golf course, right? It opens avenues for conversations that can go deeper. And that's what you guys created with that. It was the opportunity.
Yeah. And that's what I remember about those nights is that it was different than a typical golf trip, number one. At least that component was for the most part, and two, like it didn't feel produced. It didn't feel, contrived. At least from my perspective, like it didn't feel pressure. Like it felt like a group of guys just sitting around, being vulnerable. You just don't see that very much.
Yeah, I think we did a decent job too of setting the stage of going into it, of saying, hey, there's, just so you know, there's going to be some intentionality, that we're going to ask some questions. We're going to want to hear your story. The goal is for you to share who you are and what you think, what you believe, what you got going on. And so I think there was a little bit of a mental buildup of knowing, all right, this is going to be an opportunity to share. And then once the floodgates opened, everybody realized, man, why am I hanging on to this? Like, everybody's got their stuff. Everybody, like, if you're Jesus, raise your hand, right? If you're perfect, raise your hand. Nobody's got their hand raised. So it's like we all have things that we're processing, things we're going on in life. So, yeah, it was sweet. I remember looking around the table and even, what was it, the punch bowl?
Yeah.
We need one of those in Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah, we do.
That was so much fun.
Yeah.
I have an idea for it. I just don't have the money for it, Mickey.
Hey,
Listeners,
so you're right. Your dad.
That's right. A little bit of the inheritance now.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah, that was.
we can dream, can't we?
We can
my
dream.
heavens.
But I remember, while we were playing golf that day, watching that marine layer off the coast there.
Mhm.
And then we'd be out at the punch bowl at night around that fire. That marine layer would move in. And it got cold out there.
Yeah. Definitely.
Oh, I loved it. I loved the weather out there. I thought it was
Yeah.
so refreshing. It was July.
Yeah. Well, and I think we got to experience a lot of it. We got wind, we got a little bit of moisture, but then we had a couple nice days too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was blown away by God's creation out there too. I mean, I had never been to the Oregon coast, and to see that rugged terrain crafted into those beautiful golf courses was just a sight to behold. It was awesome.
Yeah, I got a video. You and I played together day one at Trails, and you kind of on Trails, you kind of go down and back, and it was on one of the last holes, kind of at the very end before you turn around and come back. And there was an eagle flying over our head that had a squirrel or a snake in its talons. And so I've got this on video, and I hear something rustling in the bushes over to the right, and I bring the camera down and I shift over, and there's 3 or 4 deer right there off of the tee box. And it was like, okay, God, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it was actually a video that I was sending my son because he loves wildlife. And I was like, oh, check this out, Boston. Oh, look at this over here. So I'm with you. Like, it was a worshipful experience as well.
Yes, it was.
And when you got to the guard shack, they were telling us, to watch out for bear.
Yeah.
For bear? Really?
Yeah. Yeah. It's all out there. That's for sure.
There was the squirrel. I forget which hole and which course, but there was a tee box squirrel right after the turn that would come up, and you had to guard your lunch. I remember that.
I think it was probably looking for Brian's potato chips. Well, I gotta say that that was, again, it's like a broken record, but like, man, what an incredible time, what an incredible experience, and I think something that you and I dreamed about that came to life in real life. But as I look back to that point in time, to kind of where we are now, life kind of got busy and just never was intentional about recreating something like that. I think I've tried to have the thought process of being more intentional when I'm playing golf and who I'm playing with and those kind of things. But man, that trip was incredibly special. I think it's one of those things we need to think about and figure out a way to revive, and definitely challenge, hopefully people that are listening to go recreate that too. I mean, man, what an incredible time.
Yeah, and I think too, I guess the way that my brain is wired when I think about trips like this, and I even think about things with my son, it's always a big event, right? It's always this big thing that I need to plan way out in the future. And I think we'd miss it if we don't miss thinking about, man, I'm playing golf this weekend. Why don't I just do this? Why don't I just be intentional? Why don't I just ask a couple questions? Why don't I just be transparent and vulnerable about a couple things going on in my life? I was actually playing golf last Wednesday with a buddy of mine, taking a trip with him for his 40th birthday celebration. We're going overseas, and he asked me if if I struggle, he was kind of confessed something he was struggling with and asked me kind of my thoughts on it. And it was just like, I was talked to him on the phone on the way here. And I told him, I was like, dude, thank you for opening up to me and just sharing that. It was super sweet. And so it is about these trips and these opportunities, but it's about how do we do that and do this every day, right? Every day when we're at the driving range, talking to somebody that is going through something with her daughter that could change her life. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be a giant event. I'm challenged by that.
You're saying you almost have to get into a mindset of you're going to be intentional when you go out to the golf course as to whom you're going to meet or who you're taking with you, and sort of set the tone of intentionality that way. Is that what you're?
Yeah, for sure. And I think, an analogy I used to use, we love to call people that go overseas and take the gospel places missionaries, right? They're a missionary. And as somebody that lived that life for a little while, in some ways, I don't know if this is going to sound right. In some ways, I kind of resented the term because I felt like we all are supposed to be that day in and day out, everywhere we go, no matter what. It's not about jumping upon and going somewhere and doing it. It's about being intentional with who we are on a daily basis. And so, yeah, I think it's taking the intentionality. Obviously, like that was a big trip and a big opportunity to do a lot of different fun things. But I think there's opportunities every day for us to do that, regardless of whether we're playing golf or whether we're at Walmart or whether, regardless of what we're doing.
I think there's a lot of truth in that, and even you and I've had these conversations over the past 2 or 3 years, and I think for he and I both, we've tried to do those things. I just think a couple of things happen. I think number one, spiritual warfare is real. And sometimes you do those things and they get really hard, and you sometimes we might set our expectations a little bit too high, or even set expectations at all, and they're not met, and we kind of get a little bit deflated. But that's not what it's about. It's about being who God designed us to be. And I think that goes back to worship. When somebody asked me this question a few weeks ago, and they asked me, what was my definition of worship? And I had to sit and I had to think about it for a minute, because I think as growing up in this Southern Baptist church and coming to Christ at a young age, my definition of worship was being at church on Sunday mornings and Sunday nights and Wednesday nights and revival and vacation Bible school and church camp and like all of those things. And what I've learned over the last several years is that worship is whatever draws us closer to the Lord, period. So even if I'm going to the driving range today, even if I'm going to just play golf here at home or whatever, it's, what can I do to continue to draw closer? I think that's one of the things that God's impressed on me, the last several months, is that when I do go out, whatever I am that day, whether it's people that I know or people that I don't know that I've met for the first time, is that, my life is a canvas. They're going to get to see something that day. What can I do to help them maybe see a glimpse of Jesus rather than how good I perform on the golf course? But I think we do. I think particularly as guys, like the world we live in, we're incredibly driven. We've got families. We're raising families, and you go through these young seasons where, you don't get to golf as much as you want to. And sometimes when we go get to play golf, that's our escape. So hence, we're not even thinking about our spiritual life or our hearts. Like, that's our escape. But why can't it be both?
Do you think we have to be careful if we sort of wear our faith on our sleeve? We go out there with maybe some guys are there that we don't really know very well. It seems like I'm always running into someone who is almost looking for you to mess up, particularly if you're professing, faith in Christ and you're a believer, and so then you're maybe for a moment you're not mindful about your behavior or something, and they're almost looking for you to mess up so they can say, well, if that's Christianity, that's no better than where I'm at in my life. So, why would I aspire to that? I've run into that conversation. And I've run into those people. It's made me hyper aware, not uncomfortably aware, but just hyper aware of my behavior, the canvas, to your point, that they're going to see something. So, when I hit that bad shot, as I do about every other swing, don't throw the club, don't say a curse word, don't show out, And I have no problem with that. I mean, I know I'm called to behave, but it's just sort of under the surface. There's a little tension there, particularly with people that I don't know very well. Do you guys run into that because some of you guys travel and play a lot and meet other guys?
Well, I've played with guys before that, they don't know, and, their language is pretty bad, and they're getting frustrated. About the 7th or 8th hole, they ask me what I do for a living. I said, well, I'm a pastor, and it's like, oh, you just see it all over their face. Look, it's okay. Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah, you're still in the same place.
Yeah, you're just trying to open doors of relationship.
Right.
Yeah. I think I've ran into that a handful of times and still do have a circle of friends to where I'm not going to say it's taboo, but it's uncomfortable, and they kind of know that. So it's less about the hypocrisy and it's more about just the avoidance, like let's just not even talk about it kind of thing. But I've had to do a lot of soul searching, but more than that, I think it's just God continuing to mold me in my life, being transformed when it comes to that perspective. And it really kind of hit home for me a couple months ago. I was listening to one of the Live Free podcasts, the Lake Point Church, down in Dallas, and they were talking about evangelism, and we're all called to be disciples and all of that. And sometimes I think I would beat myself up because I either messed up or more than messing up, it's like, man, I missed an opportunity. Like I didn't bring that person to Christ. And it kind of hit me when they were talking about this, that, our job as Christians and being disciples in the world doesn't mean that, if a person's at 10 and conversion's at 0, that we're the ones that go from 10 to 0. What God wants us to do is he wants us to make sure that our canvas is seen to where they're moving the direction from 10 to 0. We may not ever be the one that brings them to Christ, but it might be something that we did. And then I think the second thing is to hit your point is that I've had to check my own expectations. Sometimes I have expectation when I go into that round or go into that day or go into that specific conversation with that person that, this is what the outcome has to be. And I've had to learn that God's not telling me to do that at all because he's scoring differently than I score. I think what I've had to learn is just open my hands up and be who I am that day. And if I'm seen as a hypocrite, if I'm seen as somebody that's making somebody uncomfortable, then so be it. We'll let God do what God does, and we'll just be the vessel that's available that day. It's easier said than done, though.
I've had the opportunity a handful of times to go so far as to say, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when I'm going to disappoint you.
Yeah, I'm
going to mess up. I'm going to say something that's going to harm my witness. But here's the thing: I'm not the standard. So if you look to me, because I'm not perfect, that's your excuse to not pursue, church or community group with your neighbor or whatever it is, then yeah, you're not going to get there. I'll keep you, out instead of in. But I'm not the standard.
I'm a sinner saved by grace.
Absolutely.
That's why I am here today. Yeah, I hit a lot of bogeys. I make a lot of bogeys.
Several doubles too.
Yeah, doubles.
Well,
Jim, I don't
didn't
feel
think
like,
we were going to. This is not called double bogeys and blessings.
Yeah, Jim, I don't know that I can relate to your question. I've never really made mistakes on the golf course.
Have you not?
No,
Okay.
I've never really had any explosions that people can remember, that letters have been written about. No, I think a lot of times it's how we respond, right, in those moments. I think and sometimes it makes us relatable as well. I don't know. There is a standard, obviously, and there is ways that we're supposed to react, but I don't know. I've found in those moments that actually people are like, oh, he's a real person. I can relate to him. Yeah. And you talk about places where it's taboo, groups of people, it's taboo. I love places like that. It's game on for me in places like that because there are 1,000 ways to have spiritual conversations without using Christianese. Like there's so much terminology that we use on a day in and day out basis that immediately puts walls up unnecessarily. And if we just avoid certain terminology, ask them questions, do what Jesus did. Ask questions about who they are in their life and tell me about you. And you might be planting a seed or setting the stage for that next time. But yeah, I don't know.
It's the road to relationship.
Yeah, I love those opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
be interested in people.
Mm-hmm.
Be interested, because they will want to talk about themselves. If given a comfortable opportunity, they'll open up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think people are clamoring for us to meet them where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that can make us uncomfortable because of where they are. And that's not in a judgmental type way, but it's because we're at a different stage of life. But you got to meet people where they are, because, even though we're believers in Christ and, our eternity is secure, we were once where they were, for sure.
You can't go where you want to go until you come to grips with where you are. You got to realize where you are and what state your life is in before you can even decide, I want to go. And I appreciate that from you two guys, the amount of work that you put in to the intentionality of that trip. And I know there are probably people listening to this who have the capacity to do what you guys did. And I'm curious to ask you a question. Did it accomplish what you wanted to accomplish? Because you all invested a lot of time, a lot of planning, and a lot of money into making that happen.
Well, it was incredibly selfish, just so you know, because we wanted to have the opportunity to rub shoulders with you guys and ask questions of you guys and to hear how you responded. And Jim, to see if you would throw a club, and you never did, So yeah, some of that was selfish just because we wanted to be with incredible men. What do you think, Justin?
Yeah, I think that from my perspective, again, if looking back at where I was in my life at that time, did it accomplish what I set up for it to accomplish? Yeah, I think so. As I'm able to look back, the person that I am today, looking back then, I think what I wanted to accomplish was incredibly narrow focused. And God had so much more in store. And I think that's the point of this whole story. And as I look back at the dynamics that we were all walking through, I don't think that I truly, it's not that I don't think, I know I did not have the capacity to slow down long enough to even recognize and realize all those dynamics that were going on. And I'm just learning in the last year or two. There's a couple of episodes prior to this one. Hopefully you guys will listen to. But there's a couple where I talk about just the amount of time that God's been working in my own life to just slow me down. Juliana has told me for years, "Why do you walk so fast?" I never thought I was walking fast. And as I look back, like I've just had one gear. I've lived life in such a fast pace that, a problem arises, go face it. Fire started, go grab the hose. It's whatever I got to do. I just run toward it. But I was running so fast at doing all these things, including, I think, that trip, that I just didn't slow down long enough to probably grasp everything that God probably wanted me to grasp. But at the same time, I don't think I was prepared. I don't think I was at the point in my life at that time to be able to appreciate it all, even if I would have slowed down too. So, yes, I think it did accomplish it, but man, I have visions for so much more. And I'm hopeful that that's part of what comes out of, not just this episode, but Bogeys and Blessings, that it inspires an older and a new generation to do exactly what we're talking about today. From a trip all the way down to playing with our buddies to just going to the driving range or hopefully a punch bowl in Northwest Arkansas 10 years from now.
Are you going to say something, Liam?
I was going to mention just another part that was really meaningful to me in that trip was the relationships we got to form with our caddies. Bandon Dunes did a phenomenal job pairing us up with caddies that were with us for every round. And in my notes, I've got the names of our 4 guys. I don't have the young lady that filled in the one day, but the 4 guys that were with us. So Andy, Jeff, Mike, and Scott. And as I say their names and you start to think back to the time that you spent with them, that was just another really nice touch point and way to form a relationship with those men. I know Andy was, I think, the youngest caddy that we had, but the other guys were, kind of in that peer group of the gentlemen on the trip. And so were there any stories that you guys maybe remember of your caddy?
I remember one caddy
or something intentional?
causing the wind to make Mickey's putt go in the hole. The putt went by the hole or something, and he ran up there and flared out his feet and made like a wind tunnel. The wind was coming in off the coast. Tell it. I mean,
it just blew right back
and
in the
it
hole.
blew the ball backwards down.
And I said, I'm taking it.
Of course. That's called a blessing.
That's right.
It cost me $2.
You know, I remember the caddies when we got there, them stripping down our bags.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they get in there, they were just pulling everything out that we didn't need, and made me think about, you know, Hebrews 11, throw off every weight, the sin that entangles, you know, to run light. You know, it was a sweet time with those guys. We got to know them.
Well, they were certainly a blessing to us in more ways than one, right? I mean, they were carrying 2 bags, and we didn't have a bag to carry.
Yeah.
They knew the course better than anyone. So they helped us find golf balls. They were fun to visit with, helped you steer clear of the lunch-eating animals, and they were just great guys. And hopefully we were able to show by our conduct that we were men that were there to, yes, have fun, but be a blessing to other people. Because I remember sharing the story about Melanie, that, you know, what we were doing for her a little bit. And I remember, you know, Mickey's group finishing the last round and praying with those guys on the 18th green at Bandon Dunes. And so I know I kept communications with Andy for several years post trip.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So just more ways you have an impact.
Yeah.
And those guys, they caddy in the driving rain.
Mm-hmm.
People schedule those trips 3 years out. They're going to play golf, you know.
100%. And I also think there's a little bit of foreshadowing there, probably to the Hebrews passage and the taking all the weight out of those bags. Man, they carry 2 bags around. They do it in the driving rain in 50-mile-an-hour winds. I mean, there's a lot of times where their job is incredibly, incredibly difficult, and that's after they have shed weight. But, you know, back to just our lives in general, how often do we bog ourselves down carrying things that God never asked us to carry? I'm guilty, for sure.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'd never thought about that until he was talking about taking the weight out of the bags. I was on a trip at Pine Valley a few weeks ago, and caddies did the same thing. And I mean, I've done this enough that it emptied my bag out. I had a couple of dozen balls in there, and, you know, this and that. And he picked it up. He said, "No, this thing's too heavy." I'm like, "Buddy, I just cleaned this thing out." He said, "No." He said, "You got 2 dozen balls in there. We only need 2." I said, "You haven't seen me play."
Yeah. By the way, we agree with Juliana. You do walk too fast.
Yeah, I'm working on that. It's a challenge, put it that way. But I think I'm getting better. I'm getting better. Well, let's talk to you two guys for a second. I'm envious that it was a father-son deal, you know, at Bandon Dunes, and I actually got to do that a couple of years ago with my son and my son-in-law. Man, how special of a treat that was, and there'll be memories that we've for sure made forever. But like, what did that week mean? What did that week mean to you guys then and now from the father-son perspective?
He probably began to realize his dad was getting old.
He told me he knew that before we went.
Well, go ahead. What'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, it was another blessing in the category to get to do that with you, and I just remember walking the fairways. While again, it was nice because we had the caddies had our bags, and so you and I could walk together and just really just marvel over again the scenery and God's creation and the experience. I mean, it was such a neat experience getting to fly on a plane and go directly in there and be bussed and just chauffeured around. And so we were really taken well care of, and everything was catered right to our needs, and golf and the meals were all taken care of. And so it really just made it easy to enjoy being together, and a trip that we certainly haven't had anything like that since. So we've definitely played a lot of golf together, but nothing to that degree of cool factor for sure. So What was your memory?
I'll defer to Mickey on the scripture reference. Put you on the spot here, Mickey. There's got to be something though about how God feels when He sees His children enjoying, at play, enjoying themselves, and that was what it was for me. And I would say this even if he weren't sitting here. First of all, he's still a very good golfer. Way much better than I ever was, even when I was young. And so I get a lot of joy out of watching him play good golf. And so I got to play with him a couple times, and then I'd turn around and Lee and Brian, well, they were always gone. We would finish up, and these two guys were gone back for 9 more, or gone to
we
the
played 36
par 3.
holes. Never gonna go.
Yeah, or gone to the punch bowl or someplace. But just getting to spend that time in a place that special, and watch your oldest son, enjoy himself to that degree and play well, and hit some really amazing shots. It's hard to describe the joy that you get from seeing your kids play and play well and enjoy their time, and get hugs and high fives from other men that appreciate that too. It was really, really special for me.
Yeah.
So thank you again, you guys, for for setting that up.
Well, I can't speak for Brian, but I can for myself that I can assure you it was just as big a blessing for us to watch it.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. At that point, I don't think that I was probably at a point in life where I probably slowed down long enough to recognize and realize what that kind of trip at that place would mean, only for God to allow me to do it a couple of years ago. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is spectacularly beautiful. And you say that, and then you go there and you go, oh, wow, now I get it. I mean, people have always said, and I remember Lee walking down like the first fairway that he and I played together, and he hit the ball way down there. He was just walking along, he had his hands. I was just like, I can't believe, I may have a picture of it. I can't believe I'm here. He ran up to me and gave me a big high five like I had anything to do.
And then you look out over the ocean and the whales breaking the surface out there.
Oh, my goodness.
Majestic.
Yeah.
You mentioned the scripture. When I think about that trip, think about living freely and lightly, because that's what we did. It was just a chance to get away. And Matthew 11:28 through 30 says, "Come unto me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I'll give you rest." And that's what the Lord wants for us. But Eugene Peterson expanded on that in the message, and it's so beautiful what he says. He says, "Are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me. Come away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it." And I love this statement. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I can't say it. "I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly." I love that. It's a great way to expand on what God wants for us, like you said, to enjoy this life.
And the irony of the trip was we were physically tired. We were walking many, many miles. And certainly the 36-hole day, we were all beaten. I remember that. We ate well that night. But to the scripture's point, Mickey, our mental state was lightened, and we were able to be in tune with the Creator, enjoying His creation, enjoying the fellowship of believers. And so in that sense, we were certainly lightened and given a blessing for sure.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I joined Jim. Thanks for creating the space.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I think about the trip, one of the things I remember and appreciate the most is it's easy to think about a trip, a golf trip with 8 guys. You can go ditch to ditch, right? It could be all fun, all golf, or it's like, okay, we're going to get super spiritual, super deep, super intense. And, you can go to that ditch as well. I felt like we stayed in the middle pretty well. We had a lot of fun. We took cornhole boards. We haven't talked about that yet. We took a football. I remember throwing a football it's somebody and somebody caught it and I thought I was going to kill somebody. I think you caught it and saved somebody's life because I threw it and it almost hit him in the head. And
I remember that.
But there was a fire pit not too far from the cabin we were staying at. We spent a lot of time there, and I don't know. We had a lot of fun, a lot of intentionality. We talked quite a bit, but at the same time, there were a lot of times of just sitting and being. And we talk about the beauty, but man, it was rugged beauty, right? It was with the weather and the coast, and yeah.
I just wish you had been a little more competitive.
I don't like to compete.
You have trouble competing.
Yeah.
Whether it's throwing a football or a cornhole
I'm all
or
about just everybody
a punch
getting a
bowl
ribbon.
or whatever. If you would just kind of step up and compete a little more, don't you think, Mick?
Yeah.
I mean,
I tell my son all the time, I'm not competitive. I just don't lose. So,
I understand.
yeah.
Respect. Let's try to bring it home a little bit here. I usually have a segment called Aim at the Flagstick, so let's do that for just a second. And today's Aim at the Flagstick is Proverbs 27:17. As iron sharpens iron, so does one man sharpen another. That week as I look back, we were sharpening each other, but we weren't fixing things. We weren't preaching, sermons. We were just being ourselves, and we were having fun. But we were figuring out ways to do that, with a deep amount of intentionality. And Mickey, I think you said it best earlier. This is one of the places where my dad and I used to butt heads years ago. Is that, I think God's always impressed on my heart that, my ability to be a disciple was more relational. It was not to just go up to somebody and start sharing the gospel. And that's where my dad's different. He's gifted in the way that he can go do that, but you can do that when you're the mayor, which is what my dad is. And I think I've found different ways of doing it. And I think as I'm able to look back and see some of those pieces of the puzzle that God's given me, a lot of that has come through golf experiences that I've got to go enjoy, whether it be at home, or abroad. And I'm incredibly thankful for those things. I think to wrap it up today, let's tap this putt in. If you were to think about people that are listening, right now, and could place themselves at a place in life similar to where we were in July of 2018, like, what would you say to them? What advice would you have for them?
I think there was tremendous value in the fact that all 8 of us didn't know each other well, and the fact that we weren't best friends. Because to Brian's point, you see it all online now. A lot of golf buddies trips, they just turn into a bender, and they're there for fun and drinking, and the same thing goes on that happens in their hometown. And so I think what was neat about our trip was, yes, a lot of us had been exposed to each other and knew each other in different circles somewhat, but it allowed us to go deeper and actually get to know each other on a deeper level and see what connected us, which ultimately was our relationship in Christ. And that would be a recommendation I would make, is be a little bit more strategic about your group that you decided to take a trip with, than just the normal guys. So,
Well said.
I think for me too, if I was going to give advice to somebody watching, it would be something like, what do you have to lose? Why wouldn't you do it? Because I think the fear would be, man, if I get a group of guys together this weekend and I want to talk about something, how are they going to respond? Well, what do you have to lose if they respond in a way that you don't want? Or what if they do respond in a way that you don't want because they're telling you something you don't want to hear, but maybe it's what you need to hear? Yeah, I think it's the being willing to be uncomfortable and talk about the things that sometimes you don't want to talk about, but you need to talk about with a group of guys. I don't know, and I think too on the golf course, what better place to do it? I like to go for walks and talk to people. Especially, I like to have hard conversations going for a walk, because there's something about being side to side together and walking down a path together versus sitting across the table and staring into someone's eyes, having this difficult conversation. Because, on the golf course, it's very natural. Just be like, hey, dude, what are your thoughts on this? And you take a little break, hit a couple shots, come back, and you can keep talking about it. It's just it's a safe place to talk. I don't know. That's my thoughts.
I think for me, it's if I go back to Peterson's, the way that he describes not carrying that weight and that burden. Like if we were to create this trip again and we were to write a letter and we were to be the Augusta invitation letter, I think our letter would read very similar to that. That's not Christianese. That's just talking. And man, if I receive that letter and somebody tells me, man, you can just go and have fun and enjoy and like do all these things, we would be foolish to say no. Especially if we're eat up with golf, which most of us are, and most of the listeners probably will be. But whether you were or whether you wouldn't, why wouldn't you want to go do those things? So that's what I hope that we can inspire by not just this story today, but all the stories of the previous episodes and hopefully the ones into the futures, that we're inspiring people to go and to be intentional and don't think inside the box. Think outside the box. Don't ever think that God is limited to an individual box, that he's limited to our individual group of friends. He can do anything, and you never know where that's going to lead to. I think that's incredible, and I hope that inspires people to do more of this.
Absolutely.
I think I'd tell people to not be afraid to connect the dots of spending time on the golf course. It's golf, and spending intentional time with people that are like-minded, that are escaping for 4 hours, burdens, work, whatever it might be, and that it's okay to connect those dots spiritually with being outdoors in nature in a place that is just incredibly beautiful. A lot of guys they never think to connect those dots. It's about grinding on the game, making that 2-foot putt. They sometimes play for a lot of money, and I've seen fights break out, and so you get both ends of the spectrum. But my message to guys would be, it's okay to let yourself sort of, if you're on the bubble with your faith, it's okay to fall into that camp of guys with guys that are, and maybe have a different set of motivation for being out there today.
Yeah.
And see if you don't get something from that might surprise you.
Yeah.
Iron sharpens iron. We all can use it.
Iron.
That's for sure.
Amen.
Well, I think if you're listening right now and you've suffered through probably an hour worth of us listening and tell this story, I encourage you to think about and pray over who your list is. Invite you to think about that intentionally. Go figure out a way to walk together. Formation rarely happens alone, and this life at the end of the day is all about relationships. So hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hope you enjoyed the season. Thank you guys again for bringing it home in such a fantastic fashion. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
I'm Justin Whaley, and this is Bogeys and Blessings. However you found us, we're grateful you did. Until next time, may your bogeys turn into blessings.